So, guys, welcome back to another abundance episode. I have a really good friend of mine on, Ian Stanley. Man, it has just been so fun to get to know you. We always have laughs, always bust each other's balls. This is going to be a fun episode, you guys, just so you know. I think you should be at least 25 years old and not give a shit about a lot of stuff to tune into this or not get offended easily.
You could be 18. I mean, it's, but if you're under that and if you're of any age and easily offended, this is probably not for you.
Probably not for you.
Skip to the next episode of Chance interviewing somebody
that's really
offensive.
We met at a conference, and I always talk about going to masterminds, conferences, some of the best investments I've ever made in my life because I meet people that show up that add a lot of value, whether that's through friendship, helping the business, helping me with that next hack in life just to be a better version of myself. Met you at Copy Accelerator, 4 years ago now? Maybe 5 years?
No, it would have been...
oh, no, it's just before the pandemic.
Yeah.
I remember that.
It was February, the COVID edition.
The COVID edition.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah.
I think I had it then and gave it to everybody there because I hugged everyone and I was coughing.
I remember
and we didn't know what was really going on, but I think I was a super spreader.
You were wearing your blue shirt and you were like, I'm kind of feeling under the weather, but I'm just going to rage it through. And I was like, oh, what's up, man?
I don't
you
know
a big
let
hug.
that stop me. Yeah. You had your cool hat.
Yeah. I always have a cool hat. I can't, because now I need to wear my headphones because it's all like podcasting and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think wearing a cowboy hat with like an abundance thing on the front would just look kind of weird, but I'm going to try to figure it out.
It'd be a little too, yeah.
Be a little too like...
I'd have to be friends with you in spite of that.
Right.
Like... I'd be like, hey, this is my
Margaritaville.
friend Chance. Don't judge his hat when you meet him.
Right.
Like
instead of look for the guy with the cool hat, it would now switch to...
Yeah, I'd be like, just forgive his hat. I swear he's fine. Cowboy hat with a logo is not...
It's bad.
It's so anti-cowboy.
Yeah, it's like the bad Jimmy Buffett fans.
Yeah.
Like the worst kind.
Are there good ones?
I don't know,
No,
actually.
I think I would like Jimmy Buffett fans a lot. I've got a feeling we'd get along.
Yeah. Margaritas. I mean, you had me at margarita.
Alcohol and cool unbuttoned shirts. I'm in.
I'm down.
I'm in.
So we met then, and Ian is a master with his words. You have, I might be making this up, but a lot of bestsellers that you've written, or is it just one that was a
just
bestseller?
one? Just one. It's not a bestseller, actually. We didn't put it on Amazon or anything.
It will be.
It might be, yeah. Well, the main ad we ran for the book was, this is not a bestseller. And it was about the fact that there's tons of bestsellers out there and people who've manipulated Amazon or New York Times. I know people who've bought 100,000 of their own books to become a bestseller.
Yep.
And so I was like, this isn't a bestseller. It's about making you a bestseller, or the best at selling at least. And so we actually didn't have it on Amazon or anything then. So it could now become a bestseller, but it isn't. I don't want to lie. It sold tens of thousands of copies, but through my own website, because then I get the email lead and I get to sell them more stuff and all that.
And right there, that's why he's a master of his words and a copy genius, is because taking concepts and using them to promote yourself in a very honest, authentic way that just has an interesting story. And that's what you've done with so many email lists and brands, and even for yourself is just like really incredible. And hearing about how you grew your business mainly through email and through your social and not even heavily on ads, like blew my mind. And that's what really got me obsessed with copy, is like hearing your story and seeing what you had done with your business, and really started going down that wormhole of understanding, even in the marketing world, like you have to have experts at each one of those components to really get it there. We were like media buying masters and spent millions and millions of dollars doing it, but weren't having crazy conversion rates, and understood that like our copy sucked. Like me and Abdul were writing it, and it's like, well, we know our business.
It can't have been that bad. If you're spending millions and millions of dollars on it, it can't be that bad.
Well, I mean, it wasn't performing the way that it should have been, 2-3x ROAS, but it was just, we didn't have the team to do it. And so, meeting you really like kind of opened our world to copy, really, and understanding like, oh shit, we need to pay more attention to this.
Well, and then talking to you guys is like, we need to spend way more on ads,
right?
Which is what I had done at the companies I worked with. But then for my own stuff, we all become a victim of our strengths, right? So like whatever we're good at creates a resulting weakness. And if we don't find somebody either in our business, whether we hire them or their business partner to fill in those gaps, then we all just become a victim of whatever we're good at. So it's like, oh, you're really good at buying ads? Then you probably don't get as good at writing copy. Or you're really good at writing copy, so you don't worry about ads as much. Or you're really good at organic content, then you don't run ads. You're really good at ads, then you don't do organic content. And the people who have the most, crazy success can do all of it. Or they have, 4 owners. I've seen like V-Shred has, done really well, and they have 4 owners who all have basically no overlapping skills.
Yep.
And so that's why they do so well. But it's like the people who are good at organic should be the people spending a ton on paid. And the people doing paid, they're like, well, fuck it, I don't care. I'd rather, like, which I understand. You're like, I put in $1, I make $3. I'd rather just do that all day. But we all just become a victim of whatever we're already good at.
Yeah. And that's a scary thing that we've experienced in our business, is being like the one trick pony, being really good at media. And then we stopped working on our organic. We stopped doing JVs. We stopped doing affiliates. We stopped doing all these other things, speaking on stage, that in turn were their own revenue source. And anybody listening in, if you are really strong at one or two, I would highly advise you to either get really well at those other ones or hire or partner with somebody that is, especially with rising ad costs, everything that's going on. The way that you do your organic is fucking genius, because it's all hilarious, but it's still relevant to your brand. And I've seen it grow like crazy. I mean, we were just talking about it earlier. Like, one of the bits you did got like millions and millions of views. Like, are you seeing organic growth as far as followers and even conversions out of that?
No. So it's sort of been this debate that I've had for years of like, who is Ian Stanley to the public, in the sense of, I'm a comedian, but I also run this business, but I also, make these parody videos. And there's this weird sort of crossover of like, this parody video is really only relevant to people who've heard of this marketer or this person. So I think over the last year or so, I finally got clear. I was like, all right, the Ian Stanley stuff, at least on like social media, that's for my comedy. That's for me to go do that. And then we made, like, on Instagram, even just an almost passive income as its own Instagram page where I can post any business stuff, or we do a lot of like tweet threads about like emails I've written and stuff, and repurposing the content where I'm not the one actually having to put it out. And I did just burp slightly, if that was what you had. Just acknowledge it. I'd rather do that.
Just own up to it.
Yeah. And so so now what we're starting to do is film reels for the almost passive income page, because we haven't been doing that. And I think that's the main thing Instagram wants right now, is reels. But for me, it's got to be fun. And that's the problem, is I've lost, like, I don't really care to talk. I've said so much about email marketing. Like, I know there's not that much more for me to say after 10 years of talking about this thing. But so for me, it's about making it fun. I think I'm going to start doing parody characters again, because that's what people like the most. And so that's actually how I grew most of the business originally. Like, for my own stuff was, Ly Topez and Very Grinded Chuck and Muscle Funson and Can't Gardone. Can't Gardone was our best ad on Facebook before they had shut that down. Was like, we had hundreds of thousands of views on an ad that was me as Can't Gardone on a jet saying, you got to read this book 10 times, baby. I'll tell you right now, you got to learn how to sell. And so we'll start doing those again. But the stuff's sort of been separate. I have noticed that as I've just started actually posting my comedy clips for the first time, it's working.
Yep.
And rather than always just like, it was this, my own internal identity dilemma of like, who do I want to be perceived as opposed to now being like, I don't fucking care. This is what I think's funny. And if I think it's funny, I'll post it and put it out there, as opposed to trying to, like, as a copywriter, you're always shaping perceptions and like controlling narratives. And like, oh, this is how this person's supposed to feel when they get here, do this. And so doing the same thing with my own sort of life and perception online, I'm like, I don't actually care what these people think. So why am I trying to like control it?
Yep.
As opposed to like, I think the most views on my Instagram is one of my stupid self-defense videos. Have you seen the stupid simple self-defense where
That's amazing.
It's just like, me being a fucking, that's one of my favorite things. Those videos we took, I almost always do one take for stuff, because I just come up with it and I go, okay, that's it. To get 15 videos done, which I've still only posted 2, which is ridiculous because the second one went crazy and got shared all over, and I am, getting my own way. But to get 15 takes, it took us 90 takes.
Wow.
Because we were laughing so fucking hard. Because this character is just so stupid. The stupid simple self-defense stuff was so dumb that, like, and that's the thing. For me, it's about nobody can ever take away, whether I show the videos to anybody, whether they get posted, whether they go viral or not, nobody can take away how hard I'm laughing when you're trying not to laugh.
Yep.
You'll never laugh harder than when you're trying not to laugh. And then when you're, punching your friend in the balls and supposed to be serious when it's clearly a joke.
Right.
So
I want to just bring everybody up to speed on just like your whole growth as a comedian, as an entrepreneur. You have just dedicated yourself to the process, which has allowed it's like that delayed gratification where you've worked on it so hard that it's like when you're like, hey, I'm going to go out and be a comedian, or hey, I want to go out and try out this new platform and this new angle. It's like you've done so many reps in that space of creating content, writing it out, doing it. Like, you're like, oh, I'm going to start doing comedy. It just fucking went. Like, I remember talking about it and you posted a couple reels. Now it's like I see it every day, and like you're doing it. Like, you're going to these clubs, you're doing the work. Just like talk about that process of like, you starting writing copy, and then how your life has kind of evolved as you continue to chase that next thing in your life, really, in like that pursuit of happiness or fulfillment, like through your craft.
It's a good question. Actually, it's super relevant right now because I've been listening. I love Louis C.K. Like, to me, he's probably the GOAT as a comedian. Like, Dave Chappelle's great, but I find Dave to be more interesting than funny. Louis C.K. just fucking crushes me.
He does.
We bought the live stream the other night and I haven't watched it yet, but his last special, sorry, like the way that his ability, and this is where we're going to maybe lose some people here, his ability to do 15 minutes of pedophile jokes is unbelievable. And this actually relates to the question you asked me and about mastering a craft. So I did stand-up for the first time when I was 24. I'm 32 now. And the funny thing, they say it takes 8 years is like how long it takes to like get to a point in stand-up where you're good. And the irony is for me is I kept trying to shortcut it through like, I'm going to be famous online through the internet marketing stuff, then I'll do this. Instead of just being like, just go do the fucking thing. So I think I did 7 sets that year when I was 24, moved to Austin, stopped for 4 years, knew that this is what I wanted to do with my life, but that's our incredible ability as humans, is to know exactly what we're here for. So I did 7 sets or so when I was living in San Diego. And surprisingly, they went well. Like, I didn't have a bad set, which is not normal. And so
what defines a bad set from a good set? Like
people laughing.
Yeah. like laughing at every joke, or like crickets, every third joke hit. Like, what do you look at metrics as a comedian of like, what is a successful set?
So, I mean,
it scares the shit out of me personally, like thinking about, because I was in a band for a long time. I speak on stage about our business, but it's like, there's more behind me. It's not just me there trying to make people laugh.
Yeah. I mean, so the number 2 fear in the world is death, which I think is fucking insane because it's inevitable. Why are you scared of a thing that is 100% absolutely going to happen to you?
Truth.
The number 1 fear is public speaking, and stand-up is like public speaking on steroids, where you could give a great speech and have no laughs whatsoever. If you do stand-up and nobody laughs, you didn't do well. Even if it was interesting, whatever it is, it's the only thing you have to do where, in order to become really good at it, you have to be willing to potentially publicly fail in real time. Because you could write something shit, right? Like, you could write something that sucks. Just don't post it. Don't send it out. Don't put it out there.
Right.
To get good at stand-up, even if you write something that you think is good, the crowd will tell you. And every crowd's different. And especially going on this tour last year, like, Tuesday nights are different than Friday nights, are different than Saturdays, are different from Wednesdays. And it could be the same people, and you just put them there on a Friday night versus a Tuesday or Wednesday night. They react differently because on Tuesday night, they've got shit to do the next day. Sunday night, they've got work the next day. They've got stuff on a Monday. Friday night, let's get fucked up, right? Yeah. They're going for it. They don't give a shit about the next day.
Right.
Thursday night in Vegas, different. It's more like a Friday night anywhere else because they're in Vegas and they don't give a shit.
Right.
People don't go to Vegas and they're like, I've got really important stuff in the morning. Or they do, and then they just still party as hard as they can.
Right.
So I guess a good set to me was, I remember my second set I did. So the first one went really well, which was surprising because I was, terrified, and you don't expect to go do well at stand-up the first time. I did kind of feel like it was going to work. It was like some stories that I was like, this is, so, but you go and you do 4 minutes, right? That's where you start. You get 3 minutes. If you bring a certain amount of friends, you can get 5. So I did like 4.5 minutes. And then the second set, I thought I had to do new material every time because I had like friends come in. And so I'm like, I got to do new stuff. Right. And really, comedians normally, they work on the same 5 minutes for ages. But I was like, I'm just going to do new stuff each time. But the second set was still solid. But it was like a 6 compared to like the first one was like a 9 at that time compared to what, not compared to now. But there were a few jokes in the second one where like people didn't laugh, but for the most part they were laughing. But that's still, I look back to that as one of the worst ones. But it went well throughout that time, and then I just was like, this is what I know I'm going to do. But then I stopped while I was in Austin, basically. I didn't like the scene there very much. It's changed a lot now with Rogan moving there. But I just sort of ran from it. And so then I decided to take it seriously, moved to LA, 3.5 years ago. Or that was there for a year and a half, and then COVID hit, and I didn't want to be in LA anymore during that time. Comedy was dying, at least in person at that point. So moved here to Boise. But when it comes to improving at it, I wouldn't say, I think the downside, even in my whole life, like most things I do, I'm good at them right away. But that's such a curse when you're good at stuff because you don't have to work very hard. So most of my life has been me doing quite well at things, but never being as good as I could be because I was talented and it came easy. Yep. From tennis to business to writing. Writing was the only thing I actually worked hard at in my whole life. Like even tennis, I played in college and I won a national championship and I hated it the whole time because I was supposed to win Wimbledon from age 3. But I never worked very hard because there's also lots of fear that I've got to be the best without trying. These are all like these childhood patterns and things that I'd learned from my parents, not on purpose. And it's taken lots of therapy to go and uncover all this shit.
I was going to say.
Yeah, it's like that's like all of my trauma comes from there. But with stand-up, with writing was the first thing where I just pursued it for the sake of practice without attachment to outcome. And so that did translate to stand-up on some level because I'd been writing, quite a bit by that point, but I didn't think I was going to be a comedian. And then I did this thing where I wrote a joke every day for 90 days. I'd seen this thing about Seinfeld and I had this X on my calendar. And then by the end, I was like, I got to do something with this. And I'd gone skydiving.
Did you stick to it? Did you do it
every day for 90 days?
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I remember I didn't miss a day because there was one day where it was like 11:30 at night. I'd fallen asleep on my couch. I had woken up and there was like a pizza box nearby. And I was like, fuck, I got to write my joke for the day. And I hadn't done it yet. And I'm not really a joke teller so much like a storyteller or observations of stuff. But I was like, I got 30 minutes right now to like till it's midnight and I've technically missed this. So I remember I wrote the worst joke, probably still the worst joke I've ever written.
We got to hear it.
It's very bad.
Okay.
Do not take this as what my stand-up is. My stand-up is better than this.
Well, we're going to ease into it. We're going to start really shitty and then we're going to get funnier as we go along.
It's a horrible joke. It said, what do you call a pizza that you eat on the toilet?
What?
A pooperoni. That's it. It's horrible. But that was this defining moment for me because I remember being willing to write something really bad. It's like the people with the best ideas have the most bad ideas. The people who write the best jokes also write the worst ones. It's that willingness to fail and the willingness to be bad is what allows you to be good, especially in something like comedy where you don't know. You don't always know what's going to be good. You have ideas, but sometimes the thing you think is going to hit doesn't, and then it's this weird comment over here that works, or it's this throwaway bit on the stage, like a comment that I make randomly, and then that's the one that goes the most viral. But to go back to the Louis C.K. thing and this mastering your craft, stand-up's the thing I care about the most. Like, I love what I do with my business. I love how much we help people. I love even just writing emails and stuff is still a very fun thing, and teaching people how to use email to make money is fun. And that reward of somebody being like, I had this shit job. Now I quit and I make $13,000 a month working 4 hours a week. You're like, yeah, that's awesome. But ultimately, stand-up's my thing that I care the most about. And making stupid videos is very fun as well. But
that's also changing a lot of lives, bringing in laughter. I was talking about writing on the chairlift and just like cracking up. I needed a laugh, hopped on your reels, watched a couple.
Well, that makes me so happy. Like the thought that my friends think that my shit is funny means more to me in a lot of ways than like random people liking it. Cause I'm like, I actually remember Coates, who was just in here, had hit me up one day when I was making like more daily videos. He's like, oh, I saw that thing, that shit was funny. And I'm like, you watched that? He's like, yeah. It's like, oh, that's cool. Like to know that my friends are actually just laughing at that is a fun thing where it's also not just like, hey, we support you because there are people who like will do stand up or they have this thing and you're like, oh yeah, he does this thing on the side. And it's nice to support him, you know? And it's like no, like now having friends who've come out to my shows and stuff. And at the end they're like, oh shit, like you actually do this. This is legit. Like, and I can tell they're not saying it just to be nice is great. But that in stand up is so challenging because the feedback is very real. It's in that moment. And if you can't adapt, like that's what I see a lot of comics will do is they'll go on and they have their set and then people aren't laughing and then they just still do the same shit.
Right. They don't react to it and get better and do like the dance.
Every every crowd is different. Every audience is different. You can't get too attached to the material. And so like a lot of the times too, like those Tuesday, Wednesday night shows, Thursday night, even like people need fucked up stuff. Like, cause
you gotta really get them going. You gotta really break them out of,
jar them out of their reality.
Yep.
And just like shake them a bit and say the stuff that they're like, you can't say that. And I'm like, well, fucking, I just did. And now we're having fun, guys, and we're on a journey and we're here to have a good time.
Right.
But listening to Louis C.K. on these podcasts is like my favorite thing because the way he thinks about comedy, I think is different than anybody else. And there's this awesome interview with Louis C.K., Ricky Gervais, Chris Rock, and Seinfeld from like at least 10 years ago. I've watched it a few times. And Louis C.K. will say that, I remember he would do this thing where, because what you want to do is theoretically you open with your second best story or joke or whatever it is. Then you go through all your material and then you finish with your best bit. That's kind of the standard of how you want to work through your stuff. What he would do is after he would get rid of, like in I think his first 10 years, he was doing the same set over and over from like 18 to 32, so 14 years, I guess. And then he made it, I think when he was around 32, he started, actually, I'm saying he had kids and he was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to say stuff now. I don't care.
Right.
And then people go, oh, this is what they like. They like when he's saying all the crazy stuff. But he would you throw away your material every 18 months to 24 months. And comedians back in the day used to just, like Jay Leno apparently still does the same set from 30 years ago. Like, that's the difference between somebody who's pushing comedy and who's like, well, now I'm going to go be a host or whatever it is.
Right.
But he would take his closing joke and then he would go and open with that just to fuck himself. Just to make himself have to fight against how good his opening was. That's how you know somebody's willing to be the best.
Right.
Is they're willing to just go and put themselves in difficult situations on stage. And I've been realizing even more lately, like I want to do well every time. So I'm not willing to push some of the stuff that I should in order to get better. And so like I have some bits about black people, got some stuff about trans people that aren't actually offensive bits. I actually think one of them is going to crush. I want to go to a black club and do it because I think it's going to fucking kill. But white people are too uncomfortable to laugh about it. Like they're like, oh, I don't think you can say any of this. And I'm like, and then the black people come up to me that are in the crowd after the show. I'm like, that bit was great. I love that
fucking
part.
Funny. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, well, the white people are pretty scared. But I've realized like I kind of I did those in like my first two shows and then I was like, it's not working as well as I'd like. So I'm just going to kind of put those on hold. What Louis C.K. does is those bits that aren't working, but he knows there's greatness in them. That's where he goes on stage and he goes, I'm just going to work and I'm going to probably fail for a little bit. So he's willing to go and have 10 bad shows to get to that point where now that bit is just
gold.
Murder. Because the hardest stuff to talk about is the hardest to make work, but it's also the most rewarding and the funniest in the end. Like, you don't think 15 minutes of pedophile jokes are going to be very funny.
And
they weren't in the beginning. Like, that's the thing is he went up there and they weren't until he kept working and working and working. So to me, that's what it's about. Even in business, it's a little, in business, what I like to do is do stuff nobody's done yet. Like I like to do crazy shit in email, crazy stuff with videos that other people can't do or that they just haven't tried yet. Or like even like sending Google Docs as sales pages. Like when I started doing that and teaching that, like that shit works ridiculously well. It's just like changing up the medium.
Yep.
But in stand-up, It's like, I want to be willing to do the stuff that most people aren't. And that's what I think the best, because to me, it's not about the money. It's not about this, like, to me, stand-up is just this pure thing that the money will follow at some point with that, probably well beyond what I might expect. But it's that the people who become the best are the ones who are willing to be the worst.
Powerful. And the reason why, you're seeing this success, and it's just like that mindset with it of, I'm willing to do whatever it takes and I'm going to fail fast to become successful. Your journey through comedy is so much just like any other business. And people that continue to fail at things over and over and over again and then give up, they never experience greatness. They don't understand that uninformed optimism, the valley of despair, and then eventually success. But since you do that loop and you see so many people, it's like, man, every time they show up, they just crush it. They just crush it. They just crush it. Elon Musk, anything he touches is just like, it's insane. It's because he's gone through that full circle with his business. So he understands it's going to be frustrating. I'm going to fail. It's going to cost a lot of money. I'm going to lose friends in the making. Like, all this shit is going to happen. I know, but then I know what's on the other side. So anytime you want to get into something, go study the greats, whatever you're getting into. And like the way that you approached your business and copy is the same way that you've approached comedy. Like, I'm going to spend the time, I'm going to do the work, I'm going to learn from the greats and figure out what they did right, what they did wrong, and then just repeat that. And like, that takes so much courage, especially as a comedian. What he's doing is like, no, I'm going to throw out the best and just crash and burn for 10 to finally fine tune that. And especially at that level where everyone's expecting you to be funny, then you're like,
well, that's the hard, I think that what you'll see in comedy, and you'll see this in, with athletes and maybe certain business owners and stuff as well, is that once they're at the top, they don't work like they did
for sure
to get there.
That's why a lot of people watch college sports instead of pro. It's like college guys are still like fighting for blood to get to that top level. And then once you get there, people get comfortable.
Well, and it's that comfort that kills you, because you end up, well, it's also, I think some people in comedy in particular, they spend like 8 years to get their first set because they've done all this for so long. And then they do their second one, and then they're just not as good. But I think for the most part, what happens, especially with comedians with big podcasts, is they'll have like a great first or second special. And then, and this is not all of them at all, but some of them, you'll see their next special and like, I'll try to watch it. And I'm like 10 minutes in, I'm like, I haven't laughed once. I don't understand what they're doing. And what they're doing is they're just telling jokes for their fans.
Right.
And to their fans who understand the inside jokes, who've been there, it's funny. But it's like, if you can't be funny to a room of people that don't know you and that potentially don't even like you to start, like when I walk on stage, I'm not likable. Nobody looks at me and goes, I hope this, tall, reasonably good looking, in shape English person does well. Like, fuck this guy. He looks like a douchebag. I look like I, would oppress people, right? Like I look like I come from a long line of white people who've had good lives.
Yeah.
Like nobody's like, oh man, I hope this guy crushes. He looks like he's having a rough go. So it's like, I've got to come out and like rally against that,
For
right?
sure.
Like, and so, especially to a crowd that doesn't know you or like you, that's sort of the fun too. It's like, I'm sure you've had this speaking on stage at a business conference where the crowd sucks.
Yes.
Like they're just fucking boring people. Like, I won't say the name of the event or the person, but there's one guy who his events, the people are his crowd is just fucking nerdy, quiet people. And I like it because it takes 5 minutes just to get them to like laugh a bit.
Yeah.
Or speaking after lunch, after people have gone and just pounded a bowl of pasta in the middle of the day. And you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you eating that in the middle of the day? But they come in and they're just
asleep.
like,
yeah.
And they're just like going into hibernation. Like, that slot is the worst speaking slot. But for me, there's a fun to it as well, because it's like, let me see how I'm going to win you over. Like, I will work to the point where you are laughing at this business conference. I don't care like what state you're in. I'm going to figure this out. And so doing that, it's like a fun thing to have to come back from and to like rally against. But yeah, so it's just this, can't remember where I started with that.
Well, I was going to say on that, like, laughter helps people remember.
Big time.
Especially when you're sharing like very in-depth stuff. Is there a cadence that you like to follow? Because I know you do your comedy stuff, but you're still also going and speaking at conferences about your business and about copy to add value. Like, what cadence do you try to throw in, a joke to get people to remember you and be more like personable?
I don't know if there's a cadence. I don't write any of my speeches that I give. I don't typically use PowerPoint either. I draw pictures, which I think you might have seen some of the pictures that I've drawn. My speeches are either...
They always represent some male anatomy piece.
I've been known to draw a phallic shape on a stage.
But somehow you learn so much from it.
Nobody forgets my penis. That's the thing. Once I've drawn that, people come up to me years later and like, I don't remember your name, but I remember your penis. Which is out of context very weird, but it's I draw a picture and I don't acknowledge at any point that it is a penis. It's just a Venn diagram that happens to look a lot like one. Right. It's very underhanded and subtle when I'm talking about it. But so to me, the comedy part on the stage is kind of what I feel like in that moment. Like I don't write any of the jokes. So like, it's not like stand up where I know my set. Like here's the stuff I'm doing. I just have sort of bullet points and this is what I'm going to talk about. But on stage for speeches, I either start with a story about my dog and people tend to cry during that one. So I either start with a very sad, intense story where like nobody's speaking and people are crying and stuff. And then I go into like laughter and stuff, which you would think wouldn't work. What I've found is that the more emotional range I can make somebody experience, the better the entire speech is across the board.
Agreed.
And the more access they have to one side, they have to the other side. So I've done speeches then where I've opened up with drawing a penis and doing this, this presentation. And then like 45 minutes in after we've been laughing and joking around about stuff and learning about email marketing and business and money, doing one of the, like taking people through my meditations and having people cry and have like deep, intense experiences. So it's the more emotion you can make people feel, the more, like whether it's sadness or anger, the more they can feel on the other side of the spectrum. And even in selling, like I have a whole chapter on this in my book about you want to make people feel a range of emotions, not just one or two. So if you can take them through like the 8 core emotions, even if it's 3 or 4 of them, people are going to, if you can get them angry and make them feel joy and love and fear and shame and guilt and these different ranges of emotions, people are more likely to buy. When people buy when they're in an emotional state, not when they're making logical decisions as much. So you want to get people thinking and feeling. I want them feeling in pictures and seeing pictures in their mind and having just emotional feelings rather than thinking in words and logically about stuff.
Right. Yeah, and that's what people do. You think about all the stuff that you bought. Just go back through and look at the last 15 things that have showed up at your doorstep. Emotional buys. They're just like getting in better shape, improving your meditation, improving your business, whatever it is. We're powered by those emotions to make change. Usually, and a lot of marketing uses that to put people in a place of fear or missing out. And people do use copy in a bad way to get people to buy shit that isn't in turn going to give them the value that they want. But when you do it in the right way, and Nick was talking about this big time, is like you get that right irresistible offer, you get the right copy, you get the right thing, the right emotion behind it, and you can have something very successful that adds, true impact. But, for those of you listening in, whether it's you're writing a speech, you're doing a podcast, you're trying to sell something, whatever it is, you need to be focused on which emotions do you really want your audience to experience and make sure that it's cohesive with the outcome, right? And I think that that's so powerful because on stage, like you said, like trying to control that emotion, I learned so much from watching people speak and how they control the energy in the room. And it's so powerful. And it's all these like little 2 millimeter shifts that they're making of how they say it, when they say it, where they're on stage, which way their body's facing. I think there's like 80 different ways or things on stage that you can be doing that are going to create either trust or distrust. Your tonality, the way that you're like everything, people are subconsciously loving you or hating you. And I know that's a lot more intense in comedy, but when you can understand these things, you see people that even, actors, people that are speaking on stage, like they're so aware of what they're doing. And that's why you learn to trust them or like them or buy into what they're doing.
It's whether you're doing stand-up, you're selling over the phone, you're selling from stage, you're doing a YouTube ad, it's all just a transfer of feelings. So whatever feelings you're having are most likely going to be transferred into that person. And so if you're feeling Well, the biggest thing is like just being authentic. If you're actually telling the truth, then it's easy to transfer that. Like that's the biggest thing our sales guys will hear on the phone is like, I don't know what it is. I just trusted Ian when I saw the ad.
Yep.
I just, there was something about it. And they're like, well, it's because he's actually telling the truth.
Yep.
But the thing I was going to say is that like, so I know you've worked a bunch with your sales team, and I finally I bit the bullet and started coaching our sales team. And of course it works.
Yep.
I didn't want to do it, but I've been doing it, and it's actually really rewarding. And the biggest thing I'll have to consistently remind the guys of is that you're not selling a product. You're not selling a course. You're selling a desire or a feeling or a future identity. Like this person has a certain identity. They want a different one. That's what we're selling them. The product is secondary to the thing they actually want.
Yep.
They'll say, well, I want to quit my job. Well, okay, so what does that mean? Okay, well, what I really want, and then you'll ask them these questions, and then these people will go, you know what I want? I want a bigger backyard so I can actually play with my kids. I want to have the money to fly my parents or my wife's parents here from the Philippines and not have to think about it. I want this. So now it's not about, we're not selling them 90 days to freedom. Like we're not selling them my course. We're selling them that bigger backyard. We're selling them like a big one. Even one of my sales guys, before he worked with us, he couldn't see his son. He's English. He's from Liverpool. And, he's like, he couldn't see his son's soccer matches because he went and worked at the sofa shop. Now he misses none of his matches. Like, so you're not selling that person the product. You're selling him watching every one of his kids' soccer games.
100%.
Which is a completely different thing to sell. The product has to obviously work and has to be legit and should fit into that person's skill set. Like if you hate writing, don't buy my main course. Like it's probably not going to be fun for you. But if you do, it is the best way for you to go make money. So, but that's not what you're selling. You're not sitting there going, because they used to do this, they'd go take people through the course, like the members area, and be like, here's all the stuff in there. And first off, you go, that's a lot. It's a little bit scary.
Overwhelmed.
Yeah, and they're like selling the product. And I'm
Right.
like, just fucking forget about that. The product is secondary to the emotions, the feelings, and the things that they want. And that's what people miss. I mean, people just want to feel stuff. In general, like, why do people go to concerts? Why do they do drugs? Why do they go to comedy? They want to feel. People are tired of being numb.
100%.
They want to feel shit.
Especially more now than ever because COVID numbed everybody out. Like the amount of, drugs people got on, uppers, downers, sleepers, anxiety went through the freaking roof. People weren't able to connect. So they just started just binge watching so much TV, just being so disconnected. So now more than ever, people want to feel, connect, experience again. Like, concerts, conferences are having like record sales of people showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And literally the way that we are programmed to operate is we're wanting to run closer to pleasure and further away from pain, no matter what we're doing. If we want to go make more money, it's because there's so much pain where we're not being able to make it to our kids' soccer game. We don't have the backyard to go play in with our kids because we're in this tiny little apartment with, no room to play, no fresh air. Right. So it's like, that is what drives everybody to make a purchase or to actually make a change. And if they're not willing to make a change, then the pain isn't strong enough. And that's literally what we've helped so many people through the process of starting an online business is really finding out what that why is. And Simon Sinek goes so deep on this, but if your why for change isn't great enough, you're never going to change. Another course, another book, another podcast, another event is not going to change you. It's got to be that moment where you make the conscious decision of I'm actively choosing to move away from this pain and move closer to the pleasure. And when you're able to help people go through that transformation, that's like the most rewarding thing on the planet. And we both have been able to help so many people transform their lives through these vehicles that allow them to get to that place.
When the irony is that once they've bought the thing and the people that are most successful are the most likely to be willing to run towards pain and away from pleasure, even though that's what we all want. It's the people who actively pursue pain, or at least what we perceive as pain, whether it's working out or running or, oh, I don't want to do this task in the business, but I'm willing to. Like until you get to a certain point where you can almost do none of the shit you hate. Right. But for a little bit, it's like you actually have to be, it's the number one indicator of success is delayed gratification.
100%.
Right. Are you willing to it's the old marshmallow test of, hey, I'll give you one marshmallow now, or if you wait 15 minutes, we'll give you two. And I never understood, like, I'm sure if they did that test to me as a kid first, I'd be like, I don't know if I like marshmallows that much. But if it was like a cookie I liked, I couldn't even understand not waiting.
Right.
I don't even like, to me, I'd be like, you tell me I get 2 of the good thing if I just wait a bit?
Right.
Like, yeah, you're like, fucking bring it on.
Bring it on. Right.
Let's go. And then all these other kids are just like, I don't know, I'll just eat it now.
I'll go for it now. There's a guy doing this cool thing where he's interviewing people and saying, hey, have you started a business? And they say no. He's like, well, I'll give you 200 quid, 200 pounds right now. And you can just take it, or you can sit down with me and I'll actually end up investing in your business, but it's going to be about a 6-month process where I'll help consult you and take your idea to the world. And 9 out of 10 times, like, thanks, bro. I'll just take this 200 quid piece. And it's like this. And then
I would hope they'd take that. God, I wouldn't want to have to coach them for 6 months. That's a horrible deal for him. It's a great deal for them and a horrible deal for him. But that's the irony is they don't see that.
They don't see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. But yeah, like you said, but then when we know that we have to do those tasks, we know that we're going to add an extra 2 miles to our run that week. It is the short-term pain, long-term gain. We start to understand that and we start to chase the pain because we know it in the end equals more pleasure. Right. But it's like getting through that process and then understanding how the brain works and the resistance to that. And then, like you said, once you start doing the reps, then when you apply that work ethic and that devotion and that commitment to other aspects of your life, you do it. You know it's going to take time when you're figuring out a new workout routine, or you're getting into comedy, or you're starting rock climbing, or whatever it is. If you've gone through that process of finding success in one component of your life, you just have to apply those same principles to the next thing. That's why you see so many people that they're in great shape, they have a solid relationship, they're financially set up, and they're also enjoyable to be around. It's because they're applying those same principles to each component of their life. And really it comes down to like that, taking control of your time and being able to dedicate those minutes of the day to the shit that you actually want to fucking accomplish. And yeah, I just admire how you've done that throughout your life of taking the copy and like, what you got to talk about, like the toilet bowl ad, because that's fucking hilarious.
Well, that's what I was, so I, even for my interest in business right now, like I've had moments where I'm like, oh, I'm less interested in this. Like I fucking love stand up and I don't know if I want to do this. And that's natural to have those thoughts. And then I go, well, it's not true that I don't want to do this. It's that I realized recently I'm not doing this in the way that's the most fun for me. Just going to do one.
Just get it out there.
Just going to do one.
You don't got to hide that.
I don't know how you're going to. Yeah, nice. There we go. For the audio listeners only, you're welcome. So to me, it was, and this is more recent, like I'm like, okay, I'm not enjoying this as much as I normally do. Because I've really liked what I do. I enjoy having online businesses. I love what I've been able to do for years. I've had a very unusual life. I've spent most of my time traveling and partying and having a good time.
Yeah.
You know what I respect most about you, Chance?
What's that?
Your ability to have a good time.
Thank you.
There are so many fucking boring bastards in our business. Jesus wept.
I know.
And it's like, it's 10:30 and you're like, are we going to go grab a drink after this? Oh, I don't know. Tomorrow's I got to be productive tomorrow. I'm like, well, have you ever thought about not being a little bitch right now and being productive tomorrow? Like this whole thing going on, I want to say a couple of things. I'm going to just go on a quick rant.
I know where you're going with this, and it's encouraged, please.
Okay. So 2 things. One is there's this whole thing about not drinking right now and people being like, oh, it's bad. Why don't you get better at drinking? How about that? How about instead of giving up on drinking, you get better at it? Because it's like going to the gym being like, well, I didn't feel good the day after the gym. That's because you're fucking weak and you've got to adapt. You go, I didn't feel good after drinking. Well, get better at drinking. Drink a little bit less maybe, but get it together, figure your shit out and have some fun. That's not as much of the one as I'd like to say on this is I see all these people on social media, these business gurus who are like, yo, for your 20s, bro, don't you fucking party at all. Here's what you need to do. You take every spare minute you have, you take all your spare time, and you just put that into building a business, bro. Because when you're 30, you'll be so rich and have such a good life. You don't need to party, and then you'll party. And I go, look, first off, if you don't party in your 20s, you're going to fucking forget how to have fun.
Agreed.
You will forget how to have fun for the rest of your life. You're not going to magically wake up rich at 31 and go, oh, I'm going to start having fun again. No, you're going to be a boring fuck that nobody wants to be around except because you have money. And that's the only reason people are going to spend time around you. All of your friends are going to be fake. You're going to be miserable. Your 20s is the time to go fuck shit up, make mistakes, have a good time, Because it's also, I'll tell you, the only time in your life when you're going to be able to stay out till 3, wake up at 6, and still be super effective.
Yeah.
I hate to say this because I was the one at 21 going, it's never going to change. It changes a bit. I'm still pretty solid at getting up at any point and, being able to go out. But that is the time to do it. If you don't do it in your 20s, you're never going to do it. And you're going to look back and be like, well, cool, now I'm rich, but I'm miserable. I know so many unhappy rich people. And I'm not saying don't work or don't do useful shit either. But this whole thing of just grind in your 20s is wrong. It's not the time to just grind. None of those people are happy. That 24-year-old kid with the e-com store that's like, oh, I don't go out at all. I go, cool, I don't want to fucking be around you. And nobody else does either. You're fucking miserable. Oh, you have a Lambo? You also have no real friends, you fucking loser. You succeeded at one little thing. You've got some zeros in your bank account, apparently. And by the way, they're all fucking lying, except maybe a few of them.
Yep.
All these people who say they're making money online are full of fucking shit. And they're miserable and they're not partying. At least be full of shit and have fun.
Yeah, agree.
Fuck.
And I really want to clarify partying for a lot of people, because the way that people perceive it is you see the rap videos and you see these crazy movie videos of people drinking a whole bottle of Sky vodka and fucking being an idiot, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can go out and party and have an amazing time. There's a lot of amazing, healthy nootropics you can take that'll make you feel a little more euphoric, and you can go out and have a freaking amazing time, right? Even just going out and drinking very high-end, biodynamic, no sulfite wine, you feel freaking great the next day. And go and have a couple of drinks and go dance.
Or drink a bottle of fucking plastic vodka and don't be a little bitch. Like, get over it. Everybody's so goddamn sensitive these days. Like, learn how to be a fucking person and tolerate some shit. The people who are the most, like, afraid of everything are the least resilient people. The people who try to control every single thing. But I agree. Drink better alcohol in general. Fair play. But I think the thing when I say partying is when people say partying, they assume like cocaine and strippers.
Right.
I'm not a cocaine and strippers guy. I've never done cocaine. I have no desire to do cocaine. I have all the energy of a cocaine person without the cocaine. I don't need the cocaine. My thing about cocaine people too is like, just admit it. Like, we know you're on cocaine. Like, we can see it. Like,
it's literally hanging out of your nose.
Yeah, like I've seen people just with cocaine on their nose. I'm like, how's the cocaine? Like, I'm not on coke. And you're like, I can see it. I'm like, oh, fuck. But when I say partying, I mean like, beer pong and friends and bars and whatever's fun to you or whatever that is. That can be, whatever it is, but it should be social. People now just want to stay home.
Right.
And they're like, well, I play video games with all my friends online. That's not the same. I'm sorry, but even if you guys are talking to each other, like, you're supposed to be around people. People were designed to be around people. We grew up in tribes of 150 people. We slept 10 yards away from other people. It is not healthy to sit at home all day by your fucking self.
Yep. And they've actually done science experiments showing that you can have 150 people in your friends group and it's not overwhelming. You can still have a very in-depth relationship with them, and your brain, your subconscious, and your emotional body actually need that amount of interaction to really have a healthy, like, healthy, like, social life. Is like 150 people. And it makes sense. For thousands and thousands of years, a tribe would get that big and they would kind of like, cut off. Like, we couldn't really handle that. Too many people. So saying that, and also around the partying, is like, we were always designed to play. Like, people forget how to play, which that's when you become boring. That's when nobody wants to be around you. Like, the most fun I have is being outside with people that have done the work financially, personally, physically, whatever it is, right? They've become great at some aspect of their life. And then we go play. Like, I've been snowboarding multiple times. I've had you on the boat. We've been friggin' drinking beers while surfing on a giant wave.
You just tell the world what happened to you after I got off that boat. And you got on the news. Do people know? I'll just tell a very quick. Chance became an accidental celebrity within the community of Donnelly, McCall, and Cascade, Idaho, very quickly, because after he had dropped me off at my cabin, he then ran into a sandbar.
It was an underwater sandbar.
The stories change slightly every time. I spent 3 hours one Saturday just pushing this boat. Had helicopters were supposed to come get. I mean, basically, but Chance went from unknown to
very quickly.
Everybody there knew him because he was the guy whose boat was stuck. at the wrong, a lot of, it was unfortunate in a handful of different ways, but it was also, you should teach a course called Accidental Celebrity. and it involves just crashing a boat.
Yeah. Into a
sandbar.
Yeah. I tried to jump it, and I mean, they told me I had the biggest Ford engine in there, turbocharged. I'm like, I'm freaking jump anything with this song gun. You know what I'm saying? Well, the cool thing was that you literally lived straight across the lake, so I could get in my boat, cruise over. We could surf behind the boat, drop you guys off, come back. What an awesome!
And then I sold my car.
What an awesome idea. Well, actually, what had happened is it's a reservoir, so it drops every day. So, they were supposed to be putting buoys up on this point forever. Yeah. They never did. Anyways, I hit it. It was underwater by about 6 inches, and just brand new $100,000 boat, just right up on this sandbar. By the time we round everybody up, it wasn't even the next day. I think it was a couple days later.
Mm-hmm.
The reservoir drops by like 1 foot to 2 feet at the end of the summer every day.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I get all my friends, all the people that really respect me, and like, Chance's like got his nice cabin out, his nice boat, and we're all having a good time. They go out there, and it looks like I literally parked this thing in the middle of a sandy parking lot.
Mm-hmm. We got videos, man. That's just pushing. I thought I was like Leonidas leading a team of warriors. Like I was like, on 3. Oh, sure. And we're all out, and then Chance is just in the boat, like he's like, yeah, that looks like good pushing. You guys are doing good push. I'm here. I'm steering the boat. And we're like, it's not a fucking car, dude. You don't have to be in there. You're just adding weight. And he's like, no. This is essential for me to be up here.
I was like, guys, I think if I turn it left, it's breaking the rudder loose.
But like, that's in the sand, right? Yeah. He broke multiple engines of other people's boats trying to get it out.
Yeah.
But, hey, great story. The worst moments in our lives are almost always the best stories.
It was a bonding experience. After that, I think we've been friends ever since.
Exactly.
And like, you showed up and came through on a day that, a lot of people wouldn't have. So I appreciate that.
If you got a boat stuck in the middle of some water, I'm the guy.
I'm the guy. Yeah, that was, that was wild. We got it out. The helicopters never came. They were going to charge me, I think, $200,000 for 35 minutes of their time to literally just hook it up and pop it. So we didn't do that. Got it out. The boat was restored.
How did you end up getting? I can't even remember now after all that.
They brought in like this crazy team from Hell's Canyon that would like pull sunken river boats like out of the bottom of Hell's Canyon, like boats that are on the bottom of a raging river. These guys can get them out. Like they're just like the G's of the Northwest. Like this is what they do all day long. So they came out. And then they started laughing, obviously, because now at this point, this is 3 weeks later with the lake dropping by 1 foot to 2 feet every day. Now it looks like I parked it on the top of a mountain.
Right.
They're just like, I'm impressed. They're really impressed.
How did you get it up
Yeah,
there?
how did this happen?
Yeah. That's the other thing. Oh, that's another thing I'd like to say that I respect about Chance is that you're one of the only people I've ever had to be the one, like in any friend group, I'm typically the one where people have to be like, hey, Ian, slow down. Like, maybe we shouldn't go do that thing. With you, I'm the one being like, hey, Chance, maybe slow it down. Maybe we think through this one a little bit. Where I was like, am I the reasonable one in this relationship? Which is fun to be like on the other side and be like, oh, yeah, I'm sensible. I'm like the parent. I'm like, hey, we really need to, this is good for me to, to work from the other side of things.
For sure. Well, I'm all in on everything. Business, the relationship with my wife, my being a father, doing crazy shit. That's just the way I'm wired, is just go all in and applying that to essentially every situation that I'm in. And it's allowed me to, connect with really awesome people like yourself and get boats stuck in islands, but then also get them out and be, surfing on that boat the next season.
Right.
So
we got to surf this summer.
We will.
I didn't go once this summer.
That's terrible.
It was a bummer.
We got in.
And I have a house right by the lake.
I know.
Down here, and
do you still have your slip? Did you get a slip?
No, I didn't get a slip with it. That was the thing that I thought was maybe there, and it's not.
Damn, because there's such a long waiting list.
And I don't want to park at the top of a hill. Like, I don't want to get a boat and then have it at the top of my hill.
No, it's
that I have
gnarly.
to, like, take it down every time.
I know. I need to come out and see your place. Well, I got a new boat, and it puts out an insane wave.
It's a tasty barrel.
Tasty barrel, spitting
Just
barrel,
a
bro.
Super tasty barrel.
So sick. It's like you're in the ocean, dude.
Nice, dude.
Except with like a big sound system.
Except that you get to control it and not wait on God to make you nice waves.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Wake surfing is the ultimate, like, human saying, like, hold my beer, God, I got this.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not gonna wait on you to make me the perfect wave. Like, I'm just gonna make one myself.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. I think we went out I think we surfed like 50 days last summer.
Jeez.
It's got I haven't done it yet because I was afraid I'd put my boat on a on a sandbar, but it has a little watch that you can control it. So technically I could jump off the back of my boat, be surfing by myself.
What?
And then get back in.
Is that legal?
In Valley County it is.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. There's some lakes definitely not, and you can't be out at night, but at our lake we can surf at night and you can do the watch thingy. I've just been a little gun shy.
Yeah, you shouldn't do it. Let somebody more sensible test the watch.
Right.
That's wild though. That seems really dodgy. So I don't know. I don't all this self-driving electric shit. I'm not really.
You're not buying into it?
No, I mean you'll see. Like nobody looks at the stuff of like Teslas just blowing up and stopping in the middle of highways and stuff. They're like, no, I trust this thing. Also, I liked Teslas before, but man, the fucking people who drive Teslas, not a fan. Jesus,
used to be the Prius people.
Some of those.
Now
they're in a better cut. I mean, Prius sales had to go down because of Teslas, because rich people bought Priuses as a virtue signal.
Yes.
But they didn't actually want to. They just thought that it made them cool and nobody liked them anyways.
Yeah, and they're the worst drivers.
Now they buy a Tesla. Yeah, I'd never get behind a Prius.
No.
It's just a rule.
It's a rule.
But now the Tesla people, some of you are fine. Look, some of you listening to this, you go to Tesla, you're fine. Probably not. But there, man.
Unless you paid $100 for the truck you never got from Tesla.
Oh, did you do that thing?
Yeah.
Oh.
Still waiting on my Cybertruck.
Really? See, I just like, we've got the same Raptor.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm good. But I was in Phoenix, or I was in Scottsdale, and these dudes drove by in a Tesla and they had their little speaker on and they were like, whatever, saying shit like, look to your left, like trying to be cool. And I just looked at them and I was just like, and then they had their window down. I was like, nobody is a fan of you. And they were just like, what? Yeah, right, bro. And then they drove off. And I was just like, yeah, nobody likes you and your stuff, like doing your little megaphone out of your Tesla. Nobody likes you.
They do that? Or do they have one like attached on?
No, that you can, maybe they had their own thing they had attached, but they were like using it as like a speakerphone to play out to people so they could talk through it and amplify their voices. And I'm like, if anything, people who drive Teslas need to be shut the fuck up. They don't need a megaphone for us to hear their stupid opinions
about life.
And a lot of them just, they've got like it's like a $250 a month payment and they think that everybody thinks that they're these cool rich people. And
yeah.
No. Your self-driving car is going to give up on you one day. If anything, I hope we inspire people in their 20s to have more fun.
I agree, because I didn't really finish my full thought on play, but people forget how to. And like literally, we are programmed to where like that like replenishes us. I remember when I first started dating now my wife, she was like, every day you have to go do something. I said, yeah, you won't like me if I don't. It's like, oh, you got to go skiing this day and then you got to go surfing and then you got to go play golf. And she's like, you do something every single day. I'm like, I have to do that in order to refuel my tank, because those hobbies, I'm going and doing those with other rad people that also enjoy doing that shit. And I've had so many business relationships come out of that, best friends come out of that, opportunities come out of that, because you just like, you're out in your flow state. And that's what I love about extreme sports and doing crazy shit. You're in flow state, which you turn off your brain, you're in your body. It's already creating like serotonin and dopamine at the same fucking time without you having to work for it. You know, so many people want to go sit in a gym for 2 hours and freaking pump iron. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'd rather be out freaking skiing in the backcountry away from all electronics and all the shit and all the distractions and just like working my ass off, but also having like a reward and actually like real fun. And it keeps me going. And I told my wife too, I'm like, babe, then I'm a better father. I'm a better partner because I'm still being me. So many people give that up, especially when they're like, oh, I'm an adult now and I'm 30 and I need to spend more time working and shit.
Dude, growing up creeps up on you.
It does.
Do you ever still have these moments where you're like, holy shit, I'm a grown up? Like, I'll be like, I pay my own bills. I've been doing it for a long time too. Like I
moved out when I was 17, so I didn't like kind of from the beginning. And even when we were working on the farm, like my dad always instilled work. Like as soon as we could really walk, we were already like kind of doing shit, and he was teaching us finances and all kinds of stuff at a young age. So it's always kind of, been there. But definitely becoming a father, there's another level of responsibility that you're just kind of like, whoa, like my dad was thinking this shit, and I thought, oh, he's this crazy old man that talks about weird shit about like principles and time and whatnot. Now I'm like kind of telling
Which is
him
unusual for most parents and not, yeah.
for sure.
The crazy thing is how much we didn't know that our parents were drunk. You know, like all of the parties and all of this stuff. And you're like, oh, my parents were just there. And it's like, no, your parents were drinking. And
They were
having
drinking
a good time.
Yeah.
And you didn't know.
You had no idea.
You had no idea for so much of the time.
Yeah, and they're just like, wow, you know, and my mom would always say, you're the reason why I drink. And I was like, well, like water, Gatorade, and now it all makes sense. It's like,
well, you would make a parent drink. You would, you could make any parent drink. Or
like
is it the parent that makes the kid?
That's true.
It's a much bigger debate, though.
I agree. Well, yeah, just drinking that big, you know, it looks like a big goblet of like purple Gatorade. It's like, that was wine, not the good stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, came out of a box.
Yeah. But to the place of, no, I agree. I mean, I think, like for me, I get like, I call it an adrenaline deficit. If I've gone like 7 to 10 days and I haven't like competed in something or done something fun, it like affects my soul.
Agreed.
I think for me, a lot of it's more fun in games that like, whether it's literally playing darts or shame ball, or have you played shame ball?
I love shame ball.
Shame ball will be a worldwide
thing. It'll be in the Olympics.
It'll 100%. It'll be there. Actually, so we have a thing we want to do. You haven't met Paul yet, my video guy, the guy who I do the podcast with, but I want to do the next Olympics. It's going to be called Lane 9. And so we're going to have him, just a very average individual, do all of the events that the Olympians are doing. Because we have no frame of reference right now. We just watch and we're like, I don't know how fast that is.
Right.
It looks pretty quick, but you just want a normal motherfucker in lane 9 swimming, and it's like 15 seconds after they've finished. Like, Jesus, he's still going?
These
did he people
drown?
Are really good. I really just want him to do like the pommel horse. And if you had seen Paul, I'd just watch him just eat shit. It would be amazing. But
it's a good point, though. Like, you have no idea. Like, they're putting up these numbers, and you're like...
There's no frame of reference.
Yeah, totally.
I want to know how good they really are.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you go...
Are you gonna let him bobsled, or are you worried about him dying?
That's why we're thinking Summer Olympics, because the Winter Olympics feels more dangerous.
Like the giant ski jump you see Paul.
Yeah. Oh, my God, though. I want him... The thing is, what would be so fun is you watch somebody go off and they do like a triple backflip, and then you watch him, and he just tries to jump. And like, if he makes it, even just over the little bump, we'd be like, wow, good job. We're so happy for him.
I love it.
But no, I think like I've actually been wanting to just compete again. Like, I miss competing at a high level. The hard thing is when you've played sports at that level, you don't want to go like be decent at a sport. You want to play like
for sure
the high level. So I've got a couple buddies now who are professional pickleball players, because we all played in college together and stuff. And so I'm like, man, I miss the legit competitive part, because I treat, as you've been around me for any games, every game as though it is an Olympic medal at stake.
Agreed.
Like, I don't understand. These people who are like, it's just a game, I don't get why you're so competitive. I'm like, okay, look, I understand that your parents accepted mediocrity. That's fine. But take your
got a blue ribbon for every
take
activity.
Your shit somewhere else. I don't care. Why don't you just make it fun? You know what's fun? Winning. It's incredibly fun.
This game is fun.
And these people, they think that we're the bad guys because we're competitive and we're ruining it for them. Well, why don't you and the other kids who, you know, got blue ribbons for last place go and play another game, because you're stealing this fun competitive game from us.
Yeah.
So you're a little, because that one person like playing spike ball, and there's one kid who's like, I don't really care. It's like, cool, well, you're ruining it for everybody else.
Right. Not even paying attention to the rules. You're just smacking the ball.
I don't really care who wins or loses. Cool. Good for you. That's why you're fucking broke.
I'm low-key competitive. Like, I'll kind of see the playing field and see like, how serious are people going to take this? Are we playing with like one drink in our hand, or is blood going to be shed at some point?
Yeah.
I need to know.
I get that.
What's going down.
My friend and I almost got in a legitimate fight in the woods of Montana. We were all staying out there for like 6 days. There's nobody around. Police are many miles away. And it got so heated, and thankfully there were all the other dudes there, and we had to like, you know, and we're good friends. Like, he's a great guy.
What were you competing against?
We're playing spike ball.
Oh.
And I'm better than him by a significant amount. And he like thinks that he's a great dude. Carrie, if you're watching this, you know who you are. You're awesome. What I don't understand is people who are competitive who suck.
Right.
Like, you would have thought, there's one guy I know, this is actually a different guy named Carrie who probably won't watch this. Actually, if you're the other Carrie, it's weird, they're both named Carrie. One of them tries to always play me in games, And I'll beat him like in air hockey like 7 times in a row. He's like, again.
Okay.
I'm like, why are you competitive? You're not.
You're actually
in the
not good.
realm. Like, go back to coloring books or whatever the fuck you did.
Try to keep it in the lines.
Like, I get it if you're competitive and you're good at stuff, which
Right.
that I understand. If you're not good at stuff, this is the part where I lose people on the podcast. It's like, that guy's a dick. That sounds like a real asshole. I've gotten better in my old age at not, like, I used to not know how to, like, even be like, oh, we're not taking this seriously.
Yeah.
Like, I was the guy, like Ben Stiller in Meet the Parents, who,
Right.
like, spikes the volleyball in the chick's face.
breaks
Her nose. Like, now I can be like, okay, we're not, okay.
No spiking
chill.
to
No
the younger
spiking.
people on the other team. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Yeah, we had a big leadership retreat in Vancouver, and people are like, "Oh, Chan's a pretty good ping pong player," and we're all just kind of joking around, and we're just kind of playing, and you just watch people are just like kind of okay. And there's like 3 or 4 that were like really good, and the first I like kind of lose the first game, and then we just like keep playing.
Can't be that good then.
And then no, but he like Bilal was like fucking played ping pong in like college or some shit. I'm like, you didn't give me the full backstory. You just said he played every once in a while. So we're like getting into it, and like before you know it, we're all drenched in sweat. It's down to like 3 of us, and it turns into this entire tournament. And we're supposed to be like working on business shit, but everyone's like, no, I'm freaking taking it. It turned into this whole thing where we like brought out lights because it's dark outside, and it's like a light up, like kind of like Friday Night Lights where they all pull the cars up at the football match.
Mhm.
We're freaking. It went to like 2 a.m. By the end of it, like we're just kind of like just fucking heated. And that was my thing, is like I saw how competitive it was going to get, and then I had to take it to the end.
I live for those moments.
Yeah.
That thing you just described is like my dream.
It was like a 6-hour ping pong tournament where we thought, oh, we'll just get one in between our next meeting, and everything stopped.
That's me. I'll do
I was like,
that.
move it to-
like it's actually best if our team is trying to do stuff if I'm not there.
Yeah.
Because then I'm like, oh, let's go do this thing real quick.
No.
And then it's 3 hours later,
Yeah.
and but nobody's good enough at ping pong. That always upsets me. People think they're good at ping pong and they're not. And I always like I get my hopes up, so I've stopped getting my hopes up. People are like, oh, I'm good. And I'll play them and they're not. But ping pong I can play for hours and hours on end. But it's that also that impromptu, oh, this got crazy is one of the most fun things. One thing I notice, I get so many steps in on like my Oura Ring and my watch on nights when we go out. And I'm a very active drinker. So like when we drink, that's one of the big differences too. We're playing shamble.
Yep.
We're playing darts. If there's beer pong nearby, definitely. Like we're playing games and doing stuff.
Yes.
And it's such a difference in how you act and how you feel. And like it's not just sitting and just pounding drinks. It's like it's that competitive thing. But what's one of the most fun things about that is that what happens to the people who aren't playing and how much fun they end up having. Like spreading that joy to that group where they get to watch the ping pong tournament and be like losing their shit. That's why people watch sports. It goes back to the thing. Everybody wants to feel stuff.
Agreed.
We didn't talk that much business on here. Is that fine?
Yeah, that's
I don't
totally
know how
fine.
much we were supposed to do.
No, it's all about really just talking about just abundance and what you're excited about currently in your life, and just the stages you go through to get there. Because, the more I've, worked on my business, I also work on myself and like my expansion of how long I want to allow myself to feel good. Gay Hendricks talks about in his book, The Big Leap, which you recommended to him. By the way, I played golf with him a couple months ago.
What?
He lives in Ojai. Me and Gay Hendricks are good friends now.
I'm coming out.
Okay.
100%.
He's
That's one of
such
the
a
few
G.
people I truly want to meet that I haven't met. That's like him and Michael Singer. Dude, The Big Leap is
Changed my fucking life.
That was that I've probably sold thousands of copies for him.
Yep.
To the amount of people that I've said, you just have to read this book.
Well, right after I did not clear the sandbar with my boat, you handed me that book.
I was like, I think you're upper limiting right now.
Yeah, I was definitely upper limiting.
Yeah.
And just to give you guys kind of a short recap on the book, is it talks about you only allow yourself to feel so good and then you self-sabotage. So like a lot of times in that time in my life, finances, really good, really great with my relationship, just bought my first house, bought my first boat, like life was just like really good. And then I was feeling so good that something bad happened, because I was also feeling, I'm like, man, everything's going so well. I feel like something bad may happen, right? My mom always used to say that when we were growing up. She's like, oh, it's been a great weekend. Of course, somebody got in a fight. Or of course, there was a car accident, because people only allow themselves
and that's
to
where
feel
you
so
learned
good.
it from.
Right, exactly.
It's like you heard that messaging, so that became your standard for what happens.
And pretty much Gay Hendricks is like, why do we think that? Like, why can't it all be good all the time? And why can't you allow yourself to feel amazing for longer durations than we're used to feeling, right? Or like everything else is going well, and then we go eat shit food and freaking drink all night and don't get sleep, and the next day feel like absolute garbage.
It's the whole thing. You'll find one area to fuck up, and that's what I see. Like when I was doing more coaching of people, and I had the like business with the therapist, is you'd see people who they would go and they'd call. Like I'd have a friend, and they'd call me and be like, "Oh, I think I'm going to get back together with this chick." I'm like, "You mean the psycho one that never works out that you've tried this 7 times with?" Like, yeah, that one. And I'm like, okay. And I'd go, "How's business going right now?" They'd be like, "Good." I'd be like, "How good?" They're like, "Actually, the best it's probably ever been." I go, "Oh, how's your health?" "Dude, I've been working out a lot. I'm feeling good." This is what's happening. You're feeling good in these areas. You're not okay with, you don't have a tolerance for this much good feeling.
Yep.
So you're going to go to the crazy chick to try and fuck your shit up but it's all by accident. It's not conscious.
Right.
But I think part of the reason, and I want to talk to Gay Hendricks about this, because I think one of the big reasons why we don't believe things can keep getting better, and that's that thing I was telling you, the law I created, Stanley's law, which there's Murphy's law. It says anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Stanley's law is anything that can go right will go right.
Who is that named after, by the way, that new law?
Some douchebag named Ian Stanley. I don't know. You know you're a piece of shit when you make up a law and name it after yourself.
Oh, for sure.
There's only one Stanley's law right now, though, so I mean, there's going to be more. I have lots of like theories and like in-depth thing, not like conspiracy theories, like how the knees are the temperature center of humanity. Oh, that's a whole thing for another day.
Okay.
But back to the big leap stuff is that I do believe anything that can go right will go right. And the more I adapt that belief, the more that continues to happen, even if it doesn't seem like it is in that moment. But one of the reasons why we don't believe we're allowed to feel good all the time and why things are going to go bad is because movies literally taught us that.
Yep.
The structure of all movies is, okay, this stuff happens now. Let's take a romantic comedy, for instance.
They all have the same pattern.
It's all going to be the same thing. Oh, they met. Oh, they like each other. Oh, I wonder if it's going to work. Oh, it's working. It's going really well. Wow, they love each other. And the movie doesn't understand. There's going to be a conflict, and then there's going to be a resolution. So we're taught that the arc of humanity is that things get good, and then there's a conflict, and they get bad, and then they resolve up here at this point. And then they also never tell you what happens after that. They're not like, they like kiss at the end of the movie, and they're like, 3 months later they grew apart, and they actually didn't like each other that much.
Right.
They never tell that part of the story.
No.
But that's what we've been conditioned
100%.
to see, is that when things are going well, they're going to go bad because that's what's interesting in the story, and then it's going to go well. The movie doesn't go, oh, these things got better for this guy, and then they got better, and then they got a little better, and then the movie ended.
Right.
Because it bores people.
Yep, 100%. And to that point, yes, we're used to that pattern, that up and down and that tension, and we do get bored, especially in life. I'll watch this happen at get a bunch of friends together. We go on this big long trip, 4 or 5 days, first 3 days, 4 days, everything's going amazing. And then all of a sudden someone starts bringing up some old drama bullshit and starts sharing it with the group. And then it kind of spreads and they're like, oh my God. And then it creates this whole thing. You're like, why are we even talking about this? Something that happened 8 years ago or whatever it is. But it's because the subconscious is like, either I'm bored or I'm used to having some sort of tension somewhere in my life. So I need to bring it up in order for me to feel comfortable. And you're like, you're asking trouble or bad vibes or whatever into your life to make you feel comfortable. That's
where people are comfortable.
Yeah, 100%, which is so fucked when you really think about it. But we've all been programmed to think that way. So Tom Bilyeu talks about breaking out of the matrix, and I saw him speak a couple weeks ago. And in the backstage in his inner circle, he was talking about breaking out of the matrix. And he was like, we literally do things to prove that we want to be better. And we want people to choose our idea just because it's our idea, even though it's going to hurt the overall health of the business and actual, the bottom line. But subconsciously, we're tearing ourselves down because we're so attached to ego, to wanting ourselves to be right, even though it's actually hurting us. So there's one component of living in the matrix. And then the other one really is that bigger leap where we actually ask drama and pain and sickness and all this crap to come into our lives to keep us in this place of comfort. Well, if you break out of all that fucking programming, you're able to have abundance in all aspects of your life, and that's okay. And then people feel guilty when things are too good.
Right.
I feel so guilty because it's so good. Well, why? You're adding so much value to the world, and your bank account and your life is a direct reflection of how much value you're adding to the planet, how much impact you're having.
Right.
Period. The problems you're solving. That's it. And so especially when people have exponential growth, like I was experiencing at that time, I hit that upper limit, self-sabotage, and then you go back through this fucking cycle. So it was really cool to have that in depth. Because I asked him, where did the big leap concept come from? And he had literally been thinking about it for like 20 years and was like trying to put it into words, but had watched it happen so many times in his life and then other people's life. And he's coached a lot of the top people out there on the planet that are doing big, big things.
Well, that's why some of these people, like, there's so many fucking coaches out there today that have done a fucking thing.
No.
And you're like, look, Jordan Peterson was a therapist for, 25 years before anybody knew any of his thoughts had value.
Yep.
Gay Hendricks was working with people individually for like 20 years before they go and write the book. These people are like, I did well for a month. Now I am a guru and now I'm going to go teach this shit. And they forget that the value was actually in all the time when they weren't known, when they weren't writing books, when they weren't sharing their opinions publicly, when they were learning by working with real people. That's when they became great. And it's funny that, I've talked about self-sabotage and upper limits and all this so much because it like became my specialty within the stuff we did with Brent, the therapist business I had. And it's funny because I read it. So I've read some screenwriting books, and one of the ones I read, like basically the biggest takeaway was that there's got to be conflict in anything that you're writing. There has to be this sense that things are not, there's always this constant conflict. So even if you look at Breaking Bad, you have these two guys who are working towards the same goal, and they're always arguing to a point where it's annoying at times. You're like, can you fuckers just agree? Like, you want to make good meth. Make good meth together. But then this guy's like, well, I want to make the meth this way. Well, I want to do it this way. And it's this constant sense of tension. And for a lot of people, they say it's the best show ever. Not me personally. I don't think it's the best one ever, but very good. But it's this, there's a constant conflict going on underneath. So he's like, even if your characters agree on where they're going, there's conflict, or they're all arguing about everything all the time. That's what really good shows and movies are. They have a constant sense of conflict. So as was funny as the podcast I started with Paul, we call it constant conflict because it's us just arguing.
Yeah.
But that's what's fun. You want to watch. Also, what do dudes do when you sit around? You come up with ridiculous situations and you argue about shit that doesn't matter.
Right.
Who's the best Ninja Turtle? 30 minutes later, we've gone down a hole of which one's the best. Is it Parks and Rec or is it The Office? So it's clearly The Office.
Yeah.
But he wants to argue for Parks and Rec, and he's wrong. And but that's this thing is we want conflict, but it's cool to choose your conflict. Like the only stress I allow in my life is when I watch Liverpool or England play soccer. I don't get stressed. I don't really understand stress. I don't understand why people are so worried about shit. Like, it's happening.
Yeah.
And if you accept what's happening right now, then you're fine. I don't accept what's happening in soccer.
Right.
And so I choose this stress, but that's the fun of it. The reason I love it so much is because it's when I feel so much tension and stress. And it's like, but you should be choosing that in your life. Like,
for sure.
Choose to argue about the Ninja Turtles or which is the best cookie dipped in milk. Like, that's stuff that's worth arguing about, but with bigger shit.
Which is chocolate chip cookies.
Well, which brand?
Chips Ahoy.
What? Just the basic, which one? Blue package?
Blue package. The
Dipped
OG.
in milk?
The OG.
Dipped in milk?
Yeah.
Okay, do you get the fingers wet?
I can't remember, actually. It's been a long time since I've dipped a cookie in milk.
Yeah.
I was probably more of a surface one because I was always worried about like texture on my fingers and stuff. So I don't think I dipped it.
But what did you do with the dry part at the end of the cookie that wasn't?
I turned it this way and then dipped it that way.
But you left some crunch at the bottom
because
you were unwilling to get the fingers wet. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That shows what type. That's surprising for you. I'd think you'd be a fingers wet kind of guy with the lifestyle that you live.
That was back when I, wasn't going all in.
Also a very boring cookie for somebody like you. I wouldn't expect you to pick the blue. If anything, maybe chunky. The brown package.
It was too much chocolate. The ratio was off.
Okay, so it's the improper ratio.
Yeah.
And then what about a dry cookie? If you didn't have any milk nearby, what are you choosing?
Dry cookie. I think it was Oreo.
What? You're so fucking backwards, dude. You're wrong. This is the beauty of life. You are wrong 100% in this moment. If you're going to compare eating a dry Oreo is like swallowing a piece of shit. If you eat an Oreo dry, first off, you've probably just gotten back from a murder you've committed. And the only thing you think of with a dry Oreo is, I wish this was wet. And I mean milk, not water. But like, nobody eats Oreos dry.
They were just, what was the easiest ones to take on a ski trip?
Chips Ahoy you could eat dry, but an Oreo?
You tricked me into those answers.
Or single stuff? Double
stuff for sure.
Okay.
Double stuff.
Double stuff dry makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
But single stuffed.
And I always would grab the ones at the back of the rack so they were a lot fresher. So like the center was
double stuffed dry or single stuffed wet.
Single stuffed wet for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad that we agreed on something there.
we found our resolution.
We did. We found
that was a movie plot. So we started out and then we disagreed.
People were really interested there. We're gonna see the viewer rate go up. Yeah.
This is where you cut these clips and you're gonna throw it out on TikTok. That'll be the most viral part. People are like, what is this? A business podcast? I don't give a shit about any of that. I just want to hear the cookie debate again. You gotta have you on constant conflict, and we'll just argue about shit for a while.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
I can't wait. I wanted to do a podcast where nobody knew my name, so we could talk about whatever the fuck we wanted to. We're just like anonymous.
Yeah, I've thought about how to do that, but then how would you do it?
I don't know. Because then you could
get like robot voices and a different thing, and then it would be just this anonymous thing. You could just wear a helmet like those DJs, I suppose.
Yeah,
we'd be like altered.
Exactly.
God, could you imagine?
I'd be Marshmallow,
like
and you could be freaking Daft Punk, and we open with house music, and then we just talk honestly about everything.
Isn't that crazy that we've gotten so far in society right now that we're afraid to just say what we'd say in private?
Well,
to some degree,
it depends on what show we're on.
Yeah,
on this show, we're talking about business. And cookies.
Before we end, because I know we've been running.
What time is it right now? Actually,
4:30.
Okay, yeah, I got a webinar at 5 that I got to wrap up.
So, I want to know how you met Gay Hendricks.
So, again, just like putting it out there. By the way, that book came out in like 1995, and now it's trending.
That's because of how many people I've recommended.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been so many. I used to tell people, and I actually, The Surrender Experiment and The Big Leap are my two favorites. Surrender Experiment I've read like 17 times. The Big Leap I've read like 4. And I love it. But I would tell people, go buy The Big Leap. I was like, because I know entrepreneurs and I know when I'm telling them this, I go, you have a list of books right now that you're supposed to read and you won't read them all, but you're going to put this at the bottom of that list and you're not going to maybe get to it. And what will happen is about halfway through The Big Leap, you're going to stop wanting to read it because the upper limit problem is going to start kicking in. Keep pushing.
Yep.
I did that. I stopped for a little and I'm like, wait, no, this is the same pattern showing up for me. And so... But I'd tell people, put it at the top of your list and just read it first, because otherwise you're going to find a way not to. Read it now. It's that valuable.
Yep. It's huge. So anyways, I had put it out there. I was like, this book has changed my life. We've recommended to all of the entrepreneurs that have come through abundance. Like that is at the top of the reading list. Like you have to read this to truly understand yourself in business to allow you to have success, because you're going to self-sabotage yourself. Through going against everything we teach. Your brain will shut off to it because it does not want you to experience that next big leap.
Right.
So I was at a conference and, had just moved to Ojai. I just bought a house. I was talking to this gal at one of the tables and she was like, oh yeah, I love Ojai. There's a lot of amazing people up there. I was like, oh, who do you know? And she's like, Gay Hendricks. And I was like, as in The Big Leap. And she's like, absolutely. I'm like, can you please intro him to me? I would love to just go play. She's like, oh, he's an avid golfer. Loves golf like outfits. Attire. He wears all this like funky golf shit, and I do too. Just wear the most ridiculous shit when we play golf. And so I knew we were going to connect on that. And just again, going from knowing how to play and have experience, I was able to have that connection with a very important person in my life, and we were able to go and play golf and talk about all the shit and all the questions I always wanted to ask him.
Who'd you go? Like, did you text him? How did this all?
Yeah, she put us in a group text, and then I was just like, yeah. And I didn't want to come across as a fan because he mentors a lot of people and he's no longer doing like personal one-on-one stuff. So I didn't want him to think like that's like I wanted something from him. I was like, hey, let's go play golf because we're both members at the same club. And so we just like connected. The first 9, we talked about golf and all
just
the things that we love. Yeah. Just hopped on the golf cart and we're like, and then eventually I was just like, massive event. I was like, your book, The Big Leap's like really changed my life. He's like, my book didn't change your life. You changed your life, but I gave you a tool to do it, but it never would have happened for you unless you would have actually done the work.
It's funny. So, he mentors like a handful of people a year, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, it's very limited. Yeah.
And this is a funny story that I'll probably tell him at some point. I've thought about just messaging him because I know this woman who works with him, and she was in like a little 8-person thing I was in before I spoke at this. It was DG's I Am Party. And he does like a little mini mastermind beforehand for the speaker. And so it was like about YouTube stuff. And she was there. And other people are giving me this advice of shit. And I was like, yeah, this isn't right. Like not like I'm better than them, but like it wasn't hitting for me.
Yeah.
And then she started talking about something And then like it got into, and then I was like started tearing up and stuff. And I was like, oh, she's on the path of what I'm talking about. And it turns out she works with Gay Hendricks personally. And so late last year, I'd hit her up and was like, hey, is there, how can I get into this and talk to him? So she's like, well, if you send me some of this stuff or send this, then I'll show him he needs to make sure you're doing big stuff or whatever in this. And I go, okay, cool. And then I didn't follow through. And I'm like, what a beautiful story now to be like, you want to know how good I am at upper limit shit still? Right. I didn't even fucking follow through on this opportunity to work with this guy who I know I should work with.
Right.
Like, because I had an opportunity to, and hopefully it's still there. I'm sure it is. But like it always, the self-sabotage never goes away. It just changes shapes.
Yes.
And it becomes more insidious and actually more clever. Like for me, when I had, I don't even know if you even know this yet, but I cured my Crohn's disease and now can eat any food and do whatever.
Amazing, because I knew you were on the carnivore diet for a long time.
Yeah.
Taking a lot of supplements. I mean, you were really working on that big time.
Yeah, and so, but it was just with my mind, essentially. It's a longer, crazier story for another time. Also a short story in the sense. But now I can eat whatever and stuff. But then what I would do is, like, when I got better and better at dealing with my self-sabotage, it would become really subtle. Like, the night before I had a speech or something, I'd go and, I'd eat something that, maybe a gluten-free pizza. So this that could have touched something that could have made me sick. Like I would push little boundaries.
Right.
Like you do, oh, I'll just stay up later tonight or I'll go do something or whatever. It becomes more and more clever. Whereas when you're really bad at it, it'll be like, oh, I'm in this relationship. I'll just go cheat with this person. Like big shit. Like,
right.
Big issues. Or I'll do whatever it is for you. I'm going to go lose a bunch of money on purpose, or I'm going to run my boat into a sandbar. Whatever it might be for that individual.
Yeah.
But so it just changes shape and size, and you become better at becoming aware of it, and then you stop yourself before you do the thing. You make the big mistake. But it's still there in different ways. It just becomes more really clever. Like it starts to outsmart, because it's like, whoa, this guy's kind of figuring me out. I got to be really smart about how I try and sabotage this guy now.
Yep.
And so, so you're never done. You're never done working on it. You never stop. Sure. It's just, like if there's any point you think you're done, like you're further back than you think, because you are deluding yourself.
Because that's the thing too, is like we get smarter, we get better, we get more disciplined, but then so does our self-sabotaging self as well, is also getting better.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. It's those little subtle things of like, I know if I go to bed at 9 or 9:30, I get to bed before my second wind shows up, and then I can store that and have more energy the next day. Mm-hmm. Then I'll be like, oh, I've worked really hard this week. Like, I'm just going to stay up till 10 and finish watching the documentary or whatever. Then I hit my second wind. Now it's midnight. And then the next day I'm fucking drained.
Right.
And it was that little.
And that's not that big a deal.
Right.
But if you're aware of it, then you go, oh, when do I do that? I always do that the night before I have something important.
Yep.
The day you don't have something important, you're like, oh, I'm in at 9:30, I go to bed, I do this. So it's then you become aware of it, and then you just have to, that's the hard part, is there's no, even within the book, there's no true solution. The awareness is most of the solution. It's becoming aware of your self-sabotage patterns and recognizing them before or as they arise rather than after, and then being able to stop before you do the stupid thing.
For sure. And he really walks you on that path of like the right questions to ask to test yourself if you really want to follow through with it. Because a lot of times like, oh, I know I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it anyways. And you just do it.
Yeah.
But instead of looking at the thing and saying like, oh, I am going to do this. And then how is it going to make me feel? Is it moving me further or close or further or farther away from the next goal? Farther.
Further relates to degree, farther relates to distance.
There you go.
And it will ruin your life to know that.
Yes.
Because even in fucking Hollywood movies with some of them with even good screenwriters, they mess up further and further, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Further, you don't say, how far away are you? You say, how far away are you?
Right.
Further is degree. Farther is distance.
So you learn something every day here with Mr. Ian Stanley.
Grammatical genius.
And yeah, I mean, now you made me lose my train of thought. Thank you.
Good. Well, we're moving further away from what you were talking about. He said that you end up, is this taking me further away from my goal or closer?
Exactly. So you start going down that, and you have these series of questions that really test, like, am I going to self-sabotage or not? Brings you back into the conscious that allows you to actually make that conscious decision versus the subconscious of like, nah, it's fine. Right. I did.
Did you drive the ball further than Gay Hendricks?
Yes.
How old is he?
I don't know. I want to say
70s now? Or
he's in his 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
But so consistent. And he'll crack
Yeah,
it.
that's
Like, it just,
that's the
it's
opposite of me.
in the fairway, like every time
Yeah.
goes up there, he just knows, boom, and he's up there like putting for par. Like,
Of course, that's the
every other
ultimate
hole.
like self-sabotage guide. Of course, I'd be out there playing golf and be like, wow, you just drove at 330. And then the next hole, he'd be like, wow, that's in the water on 2 holes away.
Yeah.
He'd be like, what's that about? I'd be like, well, I was feeling really good, so I decided to fuck it up the next one.
well, I know. Well, the first 3 or 4 holes, I was playing really good. I was like even after 4 holes, and then I just fucking shanked one out of bounds. He's like, the old upper limit problem happens in golf like every hole, and I was like, you're so right. You're so wise.
Yeah, golf
And I was
is
playing
just a
golf with-
constant exploration of your upper limits.
Oh my god, it's insane, and it is because Tiger Woods talks about it. There's an amazing podcast where they take
Talk about upper limit.
personal.
That guy crushing life, crushing
then-
ass. I mean, he's like, yo, I'm on top of everything. Check out my hot wife and all this. He's like, I'm about to fuck everybody.
Yeah,
That's what happened. It's the Bill Clinton syndrome that he talks about. It's like the people who are at the top make the biggest mistakes because partially they either want to get caught or they're so uncomfortable with their success that they're like,
they need to fuck it up.
and they have to fuck it up in proportion to how they've succeeded.
Yeah, and usually it is like pretty even.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean,
you see
had
it happen
Monica
all the-
Lewinsky just swallowed, he would have been fine.
Oh my god.
That was the problem.
Yeah, I know. See, it was they
Just a
almost
little thing.
got it. They almost got it right.
He could have been fine if she had just finished the job.
She's a quitter.
I have a bit about that.
I bet you do.
Yeah.
I bet you do. Well, I hope you guys got a lot out of this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm sure I did. Lots of laughs and really just understanding there's all these patterns in life. And when you can be aware of them and you can make those 2 millimeter shifts, a lot of times that's the difference between winning and being a fucking loser.
Yeah. Don't be a fucking loser. That's the main message here. Losers, nobody likes them.
Well, Ian, brother, so good to see you.
Very fun.
Pumped on your new comedy. Guys, go follow him. Is it the real Ian Stanley or is it
at Becoming Ian Stanley?
Becoming Ian Stanley?
Yeah.
I'm a terrible friend. I don't even know your Instagram handle.
It's a weird handle. I've thought about changing it, but then I'm like, it's to finish on that thought of what we're talking about is there's nothing scarier than just being completely yourself. And I think that's what being a person is just trying to let go of all the stuff that we think we are and just being the thing that we actually are. And so that was kind of where that stemmed from, was this idea of becoming Ian Stanley. And that's what we're all trying to do, is just be ourselves. And it's crazy how hard that is for so many people, and myself included at times. So Becoming Ian Stanley on Instagram. On TikTok, it's Ian Stanley Comedian. And then my book is persuasionhitman.com. I didn't even say what the name of it that I told you. Confessions of a Persuasion
because you're not
Hitman.
allowed to self-promote on this podcast.
Whoops. My bad. So that's
Yeah, we'll drop a bunch.
persuasionhitman.com. You can also go to feedthewolf.com to opt in. You can go to 90dtf.com. I'm going to give you fucking everything. You want to deal with your money blocks? moneydnaquiz.com. What else
We're gonna put all those links below this with an affiliate so that he pays us a bunch of
Yeah,
money
there we
for all
go.
the traffic we send him.
I love
So
Sweet.
cool, man. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of laughs. Hope you got a lot of takeaway from this. I know I did. And we'll definitely do more in the future because we have some other stories that I want to dive deeper on. That was just
Awesome.
the iceberg of the Becoming Ian Stanley story.
I love it. This is fun, man.
Yeah, it was
Thanks
great.
for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad we did it.
All
Cool,
right.
bro. All right, we'll see you next time.